Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Cities with John. This is part 4 of the forest industry video release circuit thing. Dig it, yeah. I am thrilled to have you along for the ride today because we are finally putting a uh, exclamation point on this area, icing on the cake, if you will, for this forestry area. Look at those palm trees growing right into the bottom of the overpass. What a bunch of horrible city planners we've got here. Um, so yeah, today we're going to be kind of finishing up this area. And, I have a little commercial here with this In-N-Out Burger and BP and this whole little village over here that's pretty cool looking. And this area is coming along really neat, but what I really want to do is add some commercial to this blank piece of land here. So instead of putting in anything majorly big, I'm kind of just putting in a set of different stores and not really using anything particular other than some generic buildings that we're going to decorate and pick out some signs to. And those signs are going to be kind of just completely random. I don't really, when I started working on this, didn't really have anything in mind necessarily for what stores would be here, but I just had an idea of what I wanted it to kind of look like when it was all said and done. So, with that being said, I'm using, like I said, these generic commercial buildings. They're not anything special. Um, Most of them are Rico based, so they just plop right down and don't have any kind of signage or anything like that, which works fine. I don't really, for one thing, I haven't gone on to the workshop and just downloaded a countless amount of, uh, yeah, we gotta get rid of that little scooter thing. Um, I haven't got onto the workshop and just downloaded a countless amount of commercial buildings, and but I do have a ton of signs that I use a lot for my mall and my outlet mall and things of that nature. So what I did here is just using these generic buildings, just kind of go through, pick out some signs, and just go with it. All right, and just kind of tie in some signs that I thought would make sense together, and hopefully they make sense uh, as far as something that would go well with this residential area. If you watched my last video, and if you didn't, I suggest that you do that. The residential area over here, some taller buildings and great view of the ocean and dock area. And, uh, I wanted the commercial over here to also be kind of more appealing to that type of citizen. Um, a place that was going to be kind of you know a good shopping destination where they really wouldn't necessarily have to drive over to the mall that is on a separate island from this industrial area. So a lot of these are King Leno mods that look fantastic, and this sign pack also looks really good. And couldn't really tell you who made these particular signs, but they work out very very well with these type of buildings and with the prop anarchy mod. You're able just to plop those signs onto really any building and make a real easy commercial area come to life and really add some nice little finishing touches on your buildings. I've seen a lot of creators out there not necessarily use a lot of these real signs. That they'd rather stick with the in-game generic signs, and nothing wrong with that. There's just really not that many of them, and that's kind of the problem that I see is there's not that many to choose from. So that's why I kind of got on, downloaded a bunch of them, and like I said, I've had these for a while. I used them in my outlet mall area when I first started on this map, and um, and this is really my first detailed map, so as I've been going along and putting this stuff together, I haven't really, I've been kind of, I haven't really been saving. I've been kind of learning this stuff as I go. So using these signs a little bit differently this time than I did the first time around. So here I'm kind of experimenting, trying to figure out exactly how I want to do this parking lot. Um, I was going to just plop down a parking lot that's an asset, just like a building, but I've been using those a lot in the forestry industrial zone. So I thought maybe I would just go ahead and construct a good old-fashioned parking lot. And these are a little bit more time consuming, getting the parking spots just in the right spot, but they look so much more realistic. Um, Having the entrance area to this lot that actually connects to a road, so it has an official entrance, really does add a lot to the parking lot. So here I'm just kind of throwing together the parking spots, and you'll see here in a moment I don't really keep all of this. I try to well, we'll just see here in a second. The one thing that is kind of difficult about when you make these uh, parking spots using the parking roads, the parking spots don't always fit it perfectly. But as you can see, that kind of came out just fine. So fast forward a little bit, and that's all done. And now I am adding a sidewalk that's going to go behind all of these commercial buildings. So my people have a place to kind of walk in behind, not right by the road, and just be a little bit more convenient for them to shop with. So then adding a sidewalk in between the commercial buildings there in the center, and having that sidewalk and it being right by the interstate, I thought, you know what, we need something that kind of blocks this off where people aren't wondering about, and not that anybody's going to wander over toward the interstate, but I just felt like it didn't look safe in a sense. So I have this network brick wall that it looks really good, and it's real easy to use. It's short where you can still see the tops of those businesses. I didn't really want to block the businesses from the interstate. I wanted the signs to still show if people were driving by to see what kind of businesses are over there. But this is just a great network brick wall here, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, the idea behind that brick wall is supposed to be kind of used as a sound barrier for like the side of the interstate anyway, but I never use it for that because it's just it's too short and doesn't really make sense for um, the side of an interstate for that kind of barrier. So anyway, using this brick wall, I was able to kind of replicate a nice little um, path, kind of squared off here, and here I'm just kind of tightening it up, making sure it's right up against that pavement on the concrete, um, and I think that just kind of makes it a little bit more crisp looking. And I will also use decals to fill those gaps where my surface painter was not always cooperating, as you can see. It just kind of pushes out that concrete all over the place and drives me absolutely crazy. So using the pavement decal, um, just covering up those little spots, and yeah, it makes it just kind of takes care of those cracks and weird stuff that happens with the pavement. My sidewalks have definitely changed since starting this area. Thanks to Theme Mixer, I was able to go in and just kind of change up some things. And one thing I did change up was the concrete surface. It looks a little bit more ran down, a tad bit more not as crisp looking. And I kind of continue to tweak my theme manager and use as much as I can um, to finalize the look of some things. And I have changed it multiple times, but I do have, thanks to that theme mixer. I keep saying theme manager. I don't know why I do that. Thanks to theme mixer 2 and the incredible job by TPB, I am able to just change all that stuff on the fly. So anytime I see something that I'm like, yeah, it doesn't look all that great, I just change it right on the spot. Don't have to save my game and reload or do anything like that. So it's just awesome. Can't say enough about how good that mod is. So well done. So here, just kind of adding a little bit of um, landscaping to kind of break up the bland flavor of this area. Just having all those um, areas between the buildings colored in with pavement kind of makes it a little on the boring side. So I kind of wanted to do something a little different. And then here I'm just kind of making a tree line around that curve, just to kind of put a little wall in there. Um, One thing about trees that I'm kind of starting to realize as I go along is that, first off, there's a ton of them out there that you can download, and I found some really good ones, and I love these palm trees here, but there is, you know, some of the trees are higher resolution than others. You have to find the right combination of trees. I use a lot of user asset trees, and I use a lot of in-game trees. I think the best thing I can tell you about trees is just you have to kind of like mix it up, because if you use the same ones over and over, it just really has a generic look. So I've tried to keep it mixed up as much as possible on my trees, and so far I think it's done well. So you need groceries, right? And you need a grocery store, and here's the Piggly Wiggly. However, it's a little too big for this area, I'm afraid. So I've had that Piggly Wiggly grocery, and poor thing's never been used. So if you can't get groceries at a reasonable price, how about some caffeinated coffee drinks at a not so reasonable price? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, gotta have a Starbucks over here, of course. People wake up in the morning before they go work in the forest industry area. They have to have their caffeine, of course. And here I kind of think, well, maybe they also need a pharmacy to stay well. And I have a Walgreens. I just couldn't seem to find it. live sneeze, ladies and gentlemen. Um, so I just come over here to this oil industrial area and just copy and paste the Walgreens from over there, which is rather large, and it's going to be difficult to kind of fit in here, but kind of find a way to do it. And that's exactly what I do. So um, put the Walgreens in, and you'll see here in a second. Um, kind of made an access road around that Walgreens. And here I'm just kind of adding some details to the sidewalks. Some trash cans in behind this Walgreens, which I think turned out really well. Has a drive-through, so that's what the access road kind of gets people around there. And yeah, here I'm just taking, copying and pasting some landscaping to put over in front of the Walgreens. But I think the Walgreens will suffice for people's immediate grocery needs. When I start on the next industrial area, which will be ore, and I haven't decided if I'm actually going to make a video series with that part or if I'm just going to skip the ore. But there will be more suburban type areas over there, so that will give me some room to throw in places like a Piggly Wiggly and stuff like that. And I debated using like the Walmart grocery, the Walmart neighborhood market, I believe it's called. But it was really big as well. And this Walgreens is big as well, but um, I don't think that it's so big that it doesn't make sense to have here. And Walgreens, as you probably know, they're all over the place. They're everywhere, big cities, small cities. They are all over. And yeah, so having one right here next to all these uh, heavy heavy residential areas, I think makes a lot of sense. So download these really cool Starbucks tables and chairs with the matching green, and put those around the Starbucks, kind of a place for everybody to hang out when they have their overpriced caffeinated drinks. And wanted to kind of plop down this Starbucks billboard, but didn't really know a good place for it, and just kind of decided, what the heck, I'll just do something different. So ended up not using that. I always forget when I turn off that prop anarchy. You might notice there that it just started when I started doing this. The tree would not plant correctly. That's because I had the anarchy turned off. I turn it off when I put roads down, so the roads will make the trees just disappear for me. But I sometimes forget to turn it back on, and then that's what ends up happening is I can't build anything or can't put down the tree because the anarchy is turned off, which is just a simple hotkey. So you just use uh, Control P or Alt P, I should say, and that turns that off and on. And that's good because there is times where you don't want that to be on. And really, here's something with the theme manager is that you have to really kind of tweak things. That cliff there, you know, even though I just fixed that, just fixed the texture, you see that blur. It's kind of like a shadow looking thing. Um, I'll come back to it in a second, but another theme mixer issue that you gotta have to deal with a little bit as you go. So a lot of that I'm still kind of learning and looking for that final ultimate setting for theme mixer, although I feel like I'm basically where I want to be at this point with it. So here, just adding a few more parking lot decals. So I kind of try to fix this by just leveling out a little bit of this slope, but that did not fix that weird graphic look. And then I realized that that was something that could be fixed through Theme Mixer. So if you go into Theme Mixer, you have the cliff textures, but you also have like a sand and rock texture that is specifically for cliffs, and cliff and sand normal. So see how I just did that, tweaked that up a little bit, and voila, cliff is fixed. Now, if you look at the mountain here in a second, I'm not really sure if I get a good shot of it, but it kind of messes up the texture of the mountain, so I have to kind of go back and fix it again. But that's okay. Like I said, still learning the theme mixer. I'm still even learning that it's called theme mixer and not theme manager. Yeah, I'm sure all these people that make these things really appreciate when jabronis misquote the names of their beautiful creations and mods. So here I'm just kind of adding a few random details to my commercial buildings, trying to find some things that just, you know, add a little bit. And then Finish Line went out of business, and Me Undies is now officially open for business. I don't know what that is, but I didn't really want to use that Finish Line sign anyway because I've used it before. I mean, I've used all these signs before, but I really didn't want to use the Finish Line again for whatever reason. So now here I'm just adding a little bit of a barrier so pedestrians will feel a little bit safer. A car that might be out of control, instead of hitting a person directly on this boulevard, would hit these concrete pylon. Um, these concrete pylon things, I like to use. I think they just kind of give the sidewalk a more realistic look, and also adding things like trash cans, just small props to buildings, small props to sidewalks, keeping them kind of evenly spaced and things like that. It really goes a long way in bringing out some character and life to your commercial areas, and keeps it from looking or keeps it from not looking so bland, especially when you're using these buildings that don't have any sort of landscaping or anything attached to them, or they don't even have signs. Now here I'm just kind of adding a little bit of landscaping to this little lot. I thought about throwing in a small commercial building, but some of the smaller ones are they're almost too small, and next to these buildings that I have down, I just don't think they would have looked right. So I'm just using some landscaping here. Nothing too fancy, but just kind of keeping it nice and symmetrical, adding the same amount of bushes, trees, everything, all the same on all sides. So So I think this area turned out pretty good. I hope you guys liked it and enjoyed today's video. This is really the wrap up for this forestry industrial area. I'm kind of ready to move on from it. I finished the actual forestry area a while ago, but this residential area that surrounds it, I think I'm done with it too. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Click like, subscribe to my channel, and I hope you have a great night. Thanks for coming along for the ride.